Welcome to another edition of the Gridiron Report. I'm Jarret Johnson, and right now I'm starting a new series. It's a look at the roster pre-spring ball. So Coach Wells had a press conference recently where he mentioned spring ball is going to start. They're expecting to have a full round of spring ball, unlike last year when it was interrupted by COVID-19. Of course, they only had 4 practices. Every year each college football program is allowed to get in 15 practices for spring ball, and this is a really important part of the year, and it's really big for development, off-season development right now. The team is going through off-season workouts with strength coach Dave Scholes, and then the next step would be spring practice. And this year it's going to be different. There is no spring break, so there shouldn't be that big gap in the middle. I don't know if Coach Wells plans on giving them kind of a break or what at some point in the middle of spring ball, because that's what the program's used to, which is the way the school calendar is here at Texas Tech. But it's expected to start a little later as well, in maybe the second or third week of March. So I'm just happy they're having spring ball. I hope I get some kind of access for y'all, and I could really, break down what I'm seeing there. However they plan on doing it. If I have to wear a hazmat suit and be in my own section at the Jones, that's fine. I don't care. I just want to be able to see some Red Raider football. But before we get to all that, I'm going to go position by position in a series of videos where I break down every position group on the roster. Texas Tech has updated their roster. You can find the full roster on TexasTech.com. We have one on Inside the Red Raiders as well. But let's start with quarterbacks. I think those of you, if you're familiar with my work, if you listen to me on the radio or on these videos, read my stuff on Inside the Red Raiders, anywhere they'll let me talk about Texas Tech, then you know that I think the quarterback, obviously, first off, the quarterback position is such an important position, more so now than ever in the history of the game. But I think Texas Tech is in a unique situation right now that I don't think that those familiar with the program, I don't think we've seen them be in this position where, yeah, they have talent, but they don't have really an established guy. And it's been such a school for quarterbacks the last 20 years or so. And for them to be where they are now, Alan Bowman transferred out after basically being the starter for 3 years, and he was hurt a lot. He got benched a couple times, but he's transferring out, and so now that's over. And I think that was an important step to kind of like, okay, he's gone. Now let's move on with what we have. So I'm going to go over what they do have on the roster. I'm going to start, I'm going to go by seniority with the oldest guys first. And first off is Henry Colombi. He transferred in from Utah State. So Coach Wells and Coach Yost, by the way, the offensive coordinator who's no longer with the program, they recruited Henry Colombi twice, both to Utah State and to Texas Tech. So Sonny Cumbie, the new offensive coordinator, inherits him. He was a 3-star guy coming out of Florida, not a high-rated 3-star, but he did have other Division I offers before choosing Utah State. He played in a handful of games last year. Started some. He started the win over West Virginia. He ran for 100 yards and a touchdown. It seems like he ran for more, but he didn't. He finished with a net of just over 100 yards and a touchdown. Threw for just over 1,000 yards. I think 1,065 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. And Colombi was fair. And there was times where offense got bogged down with him, and I think his limitations became evident. Some of it is a lack of being able to go through his progressions, and also in some cases a lack of arm strength, being able to drive the ball down the field. But he can use his legs. He can create extra time with those legs. He can move the chains with his legs. So to me, the way I see Colombi is he is a great backup to have. In terms, he's an asset to have in terms of, if you need him to go in and play for your injured starter and win a game or two, he won't get you just destroyed. He can win you that game. He has done that. He has started Power 5 games and won Power 5 games. So, he had a good game against Kansas State. He looked okay against Iowa State late. Looked good against West Virginia. So he did some good things. I just don't think you necessarily want him to be your starter. That's where I am with Henry Colombi. I hope he proves me wrong. Maybe he tears it up and spring ball wins the competition, which, they have open competition this spring. Maybe he wins and shuts me up. So I would love that. That'd be great. Next on the list is Maverick McIvor, and I got to tell you, in the history of my time, which has been, this century, before this century, I've never known less about a quarterback at Texas Tech. It's like a scholarship quarterback. It's unbelievable. He, by the way, I mentioned Colombi. Colombi's a junior. Maverick McIvor, is still a redshirt freshman. Believe it or not, because he redshirted, all the the eligibility waiver, all that. He is still a freshman, so it's pretty unbelievable that he still has 4 years of eligibility remaining, but he does. But then on the other hand, he hasn't played a snap at Texas Tech, so maybe it's not that unbelievable. He's just a guy who's been beset by injuries even before he got to Texas Tech, since he's been at Texas Tech. I've tried asking about him because we had no access because of COVID to any of the practices or anything, so I tried asking about Maverick McIvor. I've seen him throw and he has a good arm, but not live, you know what I mean? Now we had a fear of getting hit. And when I asked the coaches about Maverick, basically the consensus I've received is that he's inconsistent. Sometimes he looks good, and then he has a stretch where he looks bad. So obviously, with the lack of quality quarterback play last year, which really held Texas Tech back, you would have thought that he would have gotten a chance. But no, they played Bowman and they played Colombi, so that's not good. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if he's even on the roster come next season. We'll have to see. Maybe he tears it up with a fresh slate. Maybe, once again, another guy who has the opportunity to shut me up in terms of me being pessimistic about their chances of being like the guy. And not just starting, but doing a good job. You look across the Big 12, there's some good quarterbacks every year. Every year. Really talented guys. And Texas Tech can't afford to have a big talent gap at that position. So, or I should say, because Maverick McIvor is a pretty talented guy. He was a highly rated guy coming out of San Angelo Central. But let's just say in terms of performance, they can't have a big performance gap at quarterback. So we'll have to see how those two guys do. Now, the next two guys are who I'm really excited about. Donovan Smith, he's a freshman again. He was here last year. He's from Friendship, but he was originally from Nevada. He's the son of running backs coach DeAndre Smith. And I was really skeptical of him. He was a backup. He was at a really good program in Nevada, but he's backing up a future Division I quarterback himself. But I was just kind of skeptical until I went and saw him play. I went and saw him play twice when he was at Friendship. He's a much better skilled in terms of quarterback than I expected and anticipated. His accuracy improved as the season went along. He has a very, very strong arm. Much stronger arm than Alan Bowman or Henry Colombi, or maybe even Maverick McIvor has. And this was before his injury. Now, last year he was injured. He had shoulder surgery. I heard he's already throwing, which is good. And that he's going to throw some in spring ball, but he's going to be on a pitch count. But he's expected to be 100% by fall camp. But you'd like him to be able to take a lot of the snaps in spring ball in an open competition. But 6'4", and he's all of 6'4", stood next to him. I'm 6'4". Like I said, strong arm, elusive, very athletic, not like high-end, top-end speed kind of guy, but make you miss, and definitely a good runner, and definitely good at getting outside the pocket, creating extra time, and finding guys deep downfield. He has just a cannon. He's a big-time playmaker, and I've heard a lot of people say, I don't see him being quarterback. No, he's a quarterback. I've seen him play. He can run the team. He's a leader. I saw him beat Lubbock Cooper in quadruple overtime, where he made play after play after play. When Lubbock Cooper, despite being the lower classification, had more talent than Friendship, and he just willed them to victory in that game. And I saw enough in terms of skills before that, and then in terms of that it factor, where you don't see in huddle highlights, where you see play to play, certain aspects of the game that you want to see from a quarterback. I saw it in spades from Donovan Smith. I'm a big fan, and I tell you what, in talking with coaches, he hadn't been hurt last year. He would have been your starting quarterback late in the season last year. He would have gotten a shot, and I think he would have had his ups and downs. But I think there's a good chance, without knowing how the injury has affected his throwing shoulder, that he could be your future at quarterback. Now, speaking of future at quarterback, the anointed one, and understandably so given the hype around him, his high recruiting rankings, how many offers he had, all that. Behren Morton, your 2021 signee, he's an early enrollee. He's already on campus there with several other guys. And he's going to participate and compete in spring ball. And He's a 4-star quarterback, around one of the top 100 players in the country. He was in Elite 11 finals. He did very well he was in Nashville this year under weird COVID restrictions, of course, just like everything else, but he performed well. What I kept hearing was he was very consistent. I saw him play as well once. Very good athlete. I knew he had the arm because I heard from so many people who don't have a dog in the fight in the Big 12 or Texas Tech who have seen him throw in person, just like, wow, he has just a great arm. But seeing him in person, just how athletic he is really wowed me. He is every bit of 6'2", 6'3", about 200 pounds. And he's not a beanpole type 200 pounds. Like, he looks solid. He can run. His best asset, at least right now, in terms of tangibles, is he is very, very accurate at throwing on the run, which to me is a big part of what football is now at the quarterback position. So, Behren Morton, he's the coach's son, great guy. I'll tell you, I met him, met his mom, talked to his family. That great family, great people. He was born at Covenant Hospital here in Lubbock, so he's a born Red Raider, as Coach Wells said on signing day, and back in December. I'm a huge fan. All that's left is for him to prove it on the field. Now, make no mistake, he's coming in with the intention of starting as a true freshman. I don't know if he even knows exactly what that entails, but that's what he's gunning for. And his family, that's what the expectations and hopes are. Now, I don't think he's a guy that's just going to leave if he doesn't get the job right off the bat. I think he'll fight for it. So if he's not the starting quarterback as a true freshman coming out of spring ball, I really hope fans aren't alarmed or panic. I mean, it's just not everyone transitions the same way. Even Patrick Mahomes, the great Patrick Mahomes, struggled early on in his freshman year by his own admission. So that's just how football goes. College football at the Power 5 level goes. But I wouldn't be surprised if he is the day 1 starter or the week 6 starter or the week 10 starter, or if he doesn't start at all. Either way, he has that potential, and I expect him and Donovan Smith to compete to be that guy very soon. Now, the question is it right now, or is it a year from now, or is it 2 years from now? Because I think Texas Tech, the coaches are curious of that too. They want to see what they have in spring ball. They haven't seen anybody in the transfer portal that they like enough to spend a scholarship on and kind of throw in the mix and kind of muddy the water. So one of those guys can step up and take that position. I think they'll use that scholarship somewhere else. But if they look iffy coming out of spring ball, they have a couple scholarships right now. They'll try and find the best fit they can in the transfer portal and bring in a placeholder, for lack of a better term, somebody who can win them some games. Because Coach Wells and his staff, they have to win this year or else. In other words, gambling on a young quarterback is a pretty scary proposition, even ones as talented as Donovan Smith and Behren Morton. But to me, this is the storyline of the offseason. It'll probably be the storyline along with Coach Wells and all that. Is he on the hot seat or is he not? All that stuff next year. It's just a big, big deal. I feel like they have a roster, which we're going to go over in future videos here leading up to spring ball. They have a roster that can compete in the Big 12 and win 6-7 games, go to a bowl game, all that. But they got to have improved play from the quarterback position than they've had from recent years. That's just the bottom line. So I can't wait to see how they perform in spring ball, though it won't be live, of course. They won't be getting hit. Still, they'll give us some kind of idea of where Texas Tech stands at the position. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.